Hello everybody, this is Havoc and welcome back to your Victoria 3 user interface tutorial series. We are going over these top left 5 buttons here, starting with your military. So guys, I hope you enjoy this brief overview of a little bit more of what you can do with this. Not necessarily the operations within it, those may be reserved for another video, but regarding the user interface, there are some things that you need to know. For one, your military is broken up into regulars and conscripts. Regulars are your professional army. Those are guys who are full-time professional soldiers, be it officers or regular servicemen. Your conscripts are your regular populace though. Those are the guys who work in your steel mills, who work on your farms, who do all the normal things. Enacting conscripts gives you a lot of troops, a lot of troop power, but also if they die, there is a gap in the industries in which they serve. That's an important designation to make. So you can mobilize all generals and also activate conscripts. As we saw here, mobilizing these guys will allow you to push them to a front. Activating conscripts allow you to choose the state region in which you have conscription centers, and they each have their own number of conscripts. It does take a while for conscripts to get ready, so just be aware of that. Breaking down things further, there are 2 ways that you can interact with your military and improve them or not improve them. Much like any building in Victoria 3, your army composition has production methods. We can see right here we have line infantry lined up. We could bump down to regular infantry, in which case they don't require as much small arms, and you see we would get a little bit of a boost. Now that goes the same for your artillery support, reconnaissance, specialist companies, and medical aid. All of those are tied behind technologies, so be aware of that. And this, of course, gives you a breakdown of everything within the, Heinrich von Heb and the Danubia headquarters. So we can see here that we have 35 offense, we have 45 defense, and 1,000 Hungarian line infantry. That's going to be pretty important. So you can see here, we have a lot of troops ready, right? And this is all under the command of a single general. You can do the same for each of these guys. However, I will say this, we're going to dive into this a little bit later, but I want to show it off. Instead of having to go in and manually update the production methods of all of your troops, all you simply have to do is go to your buildings, development, and here it is. All 250 of our barracks, we could go to irregular infantry, which would save us a ton of money. Now, I recommend, personally, if you know that you're going to use mainly your largest troops for your generals every time, I would go in and manually change a single general's set of troops. But if you know for a fact that you can bear the burden of the weight of 250 sets of barracks in Austria's case, you can totally change everything up, and across the board it will affect them. Now, their conscription centers operate in the same manner, so we're not going to go back to that on the military side. But know that you can operate and change individual production methods on individual troops if you want. It's all based on what you can afford, what you can do heavily burdened, but regardless, that will work there. Now, these guys do mobilize. Your garrisons are a little bit different. It shows off your total defense that's possible here. That's all going to be the exact same information though. So it's not something that I feel you really have to worry about. And then of course, your Navy. Now your Navy does affect your supply network strength. As you can see here, we are not overburdening our supply network with our Navy. We have 5 sea nodes that we have a supply network for. And then these are your convoys. Your supply network is literally your capabilities or your abilities to trade and to operate successfully within those specific nodes. We currently have a capacity of 1,540. We are only using 384 of those for trade routes. So that's something to consider. You can increase your number of convoys by building ports or by obviously changing the production methods of said ports. You're kind of seeing a thing here. You can either build the building or you can make it more effective. That's going to be across the board. Now your navies are interesting in that at any given time, you can have them doing things. You can't do that with the army. You can only mobilize. But with your navy, you can certainly patrol the coast if you wanted to. I don't know, I guess I can't give that order, which is a little bit wonky. Or I can escort convoys, which is basically, especially in a time of war, now that we have a diplomatic play going. You're going to want to protect your convoys because we could get raided here. We could lose resources from the Prussian army, or the Prussian navy rather, affecting that. Now, for instance here, we do have that diplomatic play. If I wanted to push Prussia and let them know that I am serious, mobilizing your troops is going to be crucial to kind of give you that. Now, you will start incurring that cost already. And this is also where the notification buttons come in. Your ability to sway where your armies go is only affected by the front available, but you can give them orders. A lot of people think they'll be upset with war, but I can tell you right now that this is a pretty robust system that does give you a lot of player agency, just not in the county by county movements that we're used to. So we can take a look at our general and see what would be good. He is a supply requisition expert, which means he has supply consumption reduction, logistics secured chance is good. Meticulous means he has offense and defense buffs, and surprise maneuver chance. Those are things that will happen during war. But as you can see here, we can have him stand by in the HQ, or we can go ahead and post him to the front. Now, we don't know the capabilities of the Prussians yet, so we don't necessarily want to have an advance forward. I'm going to defend the front, and in which case we can see that we could put 95 troops there, or 80 troops there, excuse me, and that it'll take 6 days. We could mobilize Josef Radetzky, and we could have him advance the other front. One of the things that we have to remember, and this is unfortunate, is that Paradox has not given us the ability to understand why certain fronts exist or how many troops get put there. War is still a little bit wonky right now, and I'd love to walk you through it, and I might do it. But know that there are a lot of unknowns. The other thing to remember with your military is that you cannot unmobilize them. So once they are engaged and active, taking money away from your income until you end the war. So the last thing that I'll mention is you can recruit generals and you can recruit admirals. We're not going to do that because we do have one in every single one of the areas, but that is your ability to do so. If we were to do this, it would give us 2 randomly selected generals, in which case you would select them based on the traits they have, who they're supporting, their rank, and also how many troops that they can employ. And to be quite honest, that's kind of it for your military. It's a pretty cut and dry system, but I wanted to go in depth a little bit and not waste your time on the overview user interface. So that way you can see exactly what's going on within your armies, how you can affect them, and in what manner that they will be used across the board. If we go here to the barracks, this is relevant to military, but you can also see your workforce, their quality of life standard, how much they're making, etc., as well as different modifiers. So I didn't think that would be important, but since I clicked on it, it's a pretty useful thing to have overall. We can see here a lot of really good modifiers based on the type of infantry troops that we have. Guys, thank you so much for checking out the military aspect of the user interface. I do hope you enjoyed it. We have 4 remaining: market, buildings, budget, and politics. So be looking forward to those in the future. Thank you for supporting this channel. This is Havoc, and I'll see you in the next one.